So as you can see, this garden bed is actually doing relatively well. Our grass and everything, we don't really care too much about, but we, it's not doing too bad. This used to be all forest all throughout here, so we cleared it out so we could have a little bit more sun hitting this area. We did get these 2 Norland apples, and unfortunately they're not doing so great. The only kind of growth that they have currently is right down at the bottom, but nothing at the top. And it's really, well, just a little bit at the top. So it's kind of late in the season already. I don't know if they're going to survive. This was a chance we took, kind of an expensive chance, but we keep trying it. Our rhubarb is doing great, so I'm going to be harvesting that here soon, making some vanilla rhubarb jam. That's one of our favorite ones. That one's a crabapple. It's doing really good. The trick is constantly keeping the moosies away. And we have a couple other stray rhubarb plants around the property. They're going to be going into this area too, because since that one rhubarb right there loves it so much, we've just said, okay, fine. We'll start putting more in here. We also have things in here like blueberries, and they're not doing that great because, again, sunlight is a big issue for us. We do also have things like strawberries in here. See, there's another rhubarb plant. We have strawberries in here. Let me see if I can find them. Yep, right there. We got some strawberries in here. We might get a couple of strawberries out of them. The goal here was to create a garden that was both appealing, it is the front yard, but that it looks good, but it also has some edible things in it, like the rhubarb, the strawberries, blueberries, apples, crab apples, that type of stuff. It's, we just keep playing around with things, honestly, and I suggest that to most new gardeners. Just keep playing around with new things, trying to see what works, what doesn't. Of course, always being mindful of your both your positives and your negatives that you have to work with. Like for us, sun. I can show you. That's where the sun is right now. And these are our trees. They're huge. So anyways, and I'm sure you can hear in the background here. By the way, before I go further, we did buy some new trees. We don't know how well they'll do. We shall see. But this one is an apricot. So we have apricots, we have some gooseberries around here. That's another crab apple. It's kind of stunted because of the shade. We have all sorts of different ones there. High bush cranberries, lots of high bush cranberries. And then, of course, all of our chickens. Unfortunately, we have to keep them locked up more because the ravens have been attacking everybody. And of course, we got 4 new babies. They're so cute with their little fluffy feet. These little girls are called Brahmas. They're very cold hardy because of the fact that those fluffy feet and they have no comb. So they won't have to worry as much about things like Miss Noisy Girl here, Rain. She's being noisy. It's because she knows I'm here. She has a big comb, so it makes her a little bit more susceptible to the cold. So anyways, yes, so they're talking. They heard me coming out here and they're talking. So let's go ahead and go to the backyard and I'll show you what's going on there. But that's the front yard so far. It's not looking bad. I do need to get some mulch to mulch through here, keep the weeds down, because I'm constantly having to come out here and pick, especially the stupid horsetail fern. I hate that stuff. So now we're going towards the backyard. As you can see, we have been busy. This is a combination of spruce and birch. We prefer the birch, but spruce, sometimes that's all we can get. So we have 3.5 rows so far. Goal is to have every single one of these 2 bays completely full, to the point where there's like 6.5, 7 rows. We have a wonderful new canoe that my husband bought me last year for my birthday, but we haven't had a chance to use it yet because we have so many darn projects going on. I'm hoping maybe after this summer we won't have as much going on, but every summer in Alaska is the same situation. So anyways, this is one of our crab apples. It's doing really, really well. I think the moose don't like it because it's right next to a structure. they typically stay away from that one. So I'd be willing to bet that within the next year or so, that one's going to start to produce. At the end of this summer and going into autumn, I'm going to be cutting that one quite a bit. Like I'll be trimming a lot of things off of it, so that way it's more focused in on only certain, like growing in certain areas. It's something that I learned to do in the Master Gardener program at UA. So anyways, and then we have tons of different types. We have Saskatoons that actually have berries. Don't know if you can see them, but those are Saskatoons. They kind of taste like a cross between a blueberry and kind of like an almond paste type thing. They're kind of mealy. They don't exactly taste great fresh, but they taste really good in jams, and they're a really good filler berry, I find. If you have a recipe for a really good Saskatoon jam, I'd love to hear about it. So we have tons of Saskatoon. We have tons of honeyberries. Our honeyberries this year have not produced as much. It's a little sad. We took advantage of the Fairbanks Water Conservation Sale, and we bought tons and tons of fruit-bearing trees. Now, this year they came in really bad shape. So, unfortunately, some of them might be coming back, some of them might not. I don't know. But that's one of them right here. And I don't know if that one's going to come back or not. We shall see. You can also see here in the woods, we have tons of trees that we still have to chop up. We need to get these chopped up, split, and stacked before pretty much within the next month and a half or so. So we got a lot of work to do, because you're going to see we have even more things going on. So we got roses, we have more honeyberries, we have, and again, our honeyberries, obviously we thought we had the two different varieties, but now I'm wondering, you need two different varieties of honeyberry in order for them to grow fruit, and I'm thinking we only have one of the varieties. Like, we must be very heavy on one of the varieties, so that I'm going to have to probably rectify within the next year or two. Otherwise, we're never going to see any honeyberries coming out of our garden. We do have lots of high bush cranberry. This, all back there, is high bush cranberry, high bush cranberry, high bush cranberry, all of those. We have tons of those. By the time we get into August, September, our whole entire garden smells like sweaty socks, like, sport socks. That's what high bush cranberries smell like when they're ripe. As you can tell also, believe it or not, the fireweed is already blooming. That's kind of scary, because fireweed doesn't typically bloom until we're around 6 weeks away from winter. And so the fact that the fireweed is blooming right now, I'm like, nope, you're a little early. I have allowed some fireweed. Some gardeners don't like fireweed because it is very invasive, but I like it. It's pretty. I just try to keep it kind of down into a point where it's not taking over too much. I just pull up the baby sprouts in the springtime. You can eat those actually as salad. You can, when the plant is bigger like this, you can actually take the leaves, you can roll them up. You need to bruise them really, really well, and then let them to ferment, and then dry them, and you can use them as like a substitute tea. They taste pretty good. And also, I a lot of times use the flowers, dried flowers, also as tea as well. So we have a crabapple that the mooses keep going after. But this one has not gotten hit quite as bad as the other one on the other side. This one is showing definitely some strength, and I'm expecting that, looking at this one right now, I think we're going to probably see flowers on it by next year. I need to trim it down some, trim off some of the extra branches, so that way it's not putting so much emphasis on becoming bushy, and it's just growing taller. I have some peonies in here, but they're doing okay, because again, the biggest issue that we face on our garden is we just get so much darn shade. We get a lot of shade, and we're slowly but surely trying to rectify that. Sorry, mosquito. The mosquitoes found me, so we're trying to rectify that. But in the meantime, you work with what you got. Who is it, that the Rumsfeld, who said, you go to war with the army you've got, not the army you want? Well, you know what? Yeah, we're going to we're growing in whatever kind of condition we can possibly grow in, and every year, guess what? We still learn something new, so it wasn't wasted time or whatever. So anyways, So yeah, we have some peonies. We have this stupid choke cherry that in one of our really last, like a big wind rainstorm, has decided to completely tip over like this. So originally I was keeping this choke cherry around because it was a decoy and it was camouflage. And it's because moose don't typically like to eat choke cherries, but they love to eat high bush or crab apples. Which that tree right there is a crab apple. And the tree I was just admiring is a crab apple. I was keeping this tree here in hopes that it would kind of distract the moosies from coming on over here and checking things out. Well, now that it's doing this, this tree is probably going to be gone real soon because now it's shading everything. Like it literally is, it's created a mess. So I have a feeling we're going to be chopping that one down here real soon. Choke cherries are kind of sometimes considered invasive again. I can tell you this, I have picked out so many seedlings from choke cherries. This is our big choke cherry tree. It's a gorgeous tree. I love the smell of the flowers. It usually flowers around late May into early June. It's gorgeous. I make wine and I make jelly. I make jelly out of the fruit. So I love this tree, but the problem is, yeah, they are invasive. They do put tons of stuff all throughout the garden. It's a little annoying. But you know what? As long as you keep up with it, I find they're fine. You just have to realize I'm going to have to keep up with this. So anyways, let's go in here. This is our bed where we have, and the mosquitoes, as soon as I walked in here, they went after me. This is the bed where we have beets. They're doing okay, not superb. I'd like to see a little bit better production than this, but you know what? This is the first time we've ever tried beets in this bed. And so far, those guys are all beets. So far, not too bad. We do have a little bit of miner's lettuce or chickweed. That's chickweed. Coming in here, it's been a constant having to come through here and weed. And the good news is the weeds, yes, they are edible by us. Yes, we could eat them, but we don't. We actually give them to the chickens, and the chickens love them. So it's okay. It just means that, you get a little time spending out with nature, weeding, listening to the red robins as they're singing their songs, getting some vitamin D. Yeah. So anyways, and then we've got spinach. We had a really curious episode where in May, end of May, we put down tons of seeds in here. And typically this type of stuff is all stuff that will direct sow just fine. But we put down tons of seeds of spinach and Swiss chard and even green beans, and almost nothing came up. So I had to reseed everything. It was really frustrating. So that's the reason why everything is so small, is because I literally had to reseed everything all over again. I had to get brand new packets of seeds and put them down. So we have such a wide variety of different things coming up now. The seeds that I started in end of May, most of them didn't come up. It's the weirdest thing. And they were from some reputable seed companies. So a little frustrating. This is all Swiss chard. There's a couple of radishes in there, I can tell. These ones are radishes. That's Swiss chard. Like I said, this was the same thing as this one. They were both. We started them in late May into early June. Actually, I think mid-May, as a matter of fact. We direct sowed them in mid-May, and nothing sprouted. I definitely have a lot of chickweed in here. That's all chickweed. Later on, I'll probably be coming out here when I have gotten all the other things done. I'll probably be coming out here and weeding more and giving, I'll come out here with a big bowl and I'll give our meat birds all of this chickweed. So it's kind of like a slow, laborious process of just sitting here picking weeds. But ultimately, you have to do that with chickweed because it will take over. I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to be shaking the camera, but the mosquitoes have found me and they're going after me. The chickweed will take over Swiss chard, anything. It'll take over a bed real quickly. The good news is the green beans, they're actually finally getting to the stage where, you know what, it's going to be really hard for that chickweed to take over. The green beans are almost shading out the chickweed. And so this means that it's going to be really hard for that chickweed to take over in this bed. Now, the reason why we put green beans in this bed this year is because this bed is actually, this whole entire area is notoriously really low in nitrogen. And so we were hoping to improve the nitrogen levels in this. And legumes, when you plant them in a bed and the legumes actually go to producing the green beans, they actually start doing, they're called soil fixers. They actually start throwing nitrogen back into the soil. So technically, if you have a plant that's a heavy feeder, like corn, for instance, you always want to plant something with nitrogen nearby. That's how that whole system of Three Sisters works. So anyways, we, as you can see, got lots of flowers. We even have some baby green beans coming up. So here shortly, we're going to have green beans, fresh green beans from the garden. And I'm hoping that I'll have enough to can some dilly beans. Edward and I really like dilly beans. Nick doesn't like them so much. And I don't think any of us really like them pressure canned because then they turn soggy. So, but I think here shortly we're going to have tons and tons and tons of green beans. Potatoes. We got tons of potatoes coming up in different areas. But ever since Mr. Chokecherry here decided to do the bendy thing, it has now put way more shade in areas. And so we're getting some legginess out of our potatoes. As you can see, that's a potato right there. A lot of leggies. So these potatoes are kind of showing signs of like, I want more sunlight and I'm not getting it. That's a little frustrating. And that means that we won't have as much of a, we won't have as much potatoes out of this bed because of that. So this chokecherry tree is probably going to be gone here soon. Remember those rhubarbs I was talking about earlier in the front yard? And I was saying, oh yeah, we're going to be moving some more rhubarb out. That's where they're going to be coming from. But we're afraid to move too much right away because we do have potatoes in here. We don't want to disturb the potatoes, so instead we're just going like, we'll slowly but surely move things back and forth. It's a constant thing of, okay, what's next? Edward and I are about to start a idea board of the things that we need to work on in here so that we can be a little bit more organized on how we're getting stuff done. Because as you can see, just doing this quick walkthrough, not quick, it's already been how many minutes? 13 minutes just in this part. We always have tons of work to do, tons of it. This is the reason why we don't actually even go very many places or do very much things, is because we're always working. We're always trying to get tons of stuff done. So let's go ahead and I'm going to walk past. As you can see all these logs? Yep, all of these, we got to cut them up. This is going to be our firewood. We got some birch in there. We love birch. But we also have some spruce. So we have a lot of trees. This stuff we got to cut up. We have the trees back there we got to cut up. We also have, you can't see it right now, but we also have trees back in this forest that have been cut down. And now we need to cut them into rounds and split them. And just recently our splitter died. We have to try to fix it so that way Nick and I can start going back to splitting again. But in the meantime, this is what we got. We have horseradish, we have cabbage, we have Brussels sprouts. We have some sunchokes that actually came up from last year, believe it or not. I did not expect that one. The sunchokes are actually known in the lower 48 to be very invasive because if you don't get every single root, then what they'll do is exactly what they're doing right now, which is coming back. Now, interior Alaska sunchokes. Typically, it's too harsh for them, and I didn't know if they would survive. So this was a happy mistake. I'm actually kind of grateful for it. I'm waiting to see what happens. Do we get more sunchokes as a result next year? Or is it just going to fizzle out each year and we're just going to get some, some basic plants like this, and then afterwards they'll go away? I don't know. So this is it's a test. We'll see what happens. So yeah, that's horseradish right there. We have another horseradish right here. That's a horseradish. This is comfrey. We got a cabbage starting to develop there. This bed, as you can tell, badly needs to be weeded with the chickweed. It's getting really, really bad. So I'll probably be bringing some sort of bench or maybe a tree, like a log or something that I can sit on and just sit here and start weeding it. I'll take a bowl and start weeding it. So we have garlic and onions and leeks. This year we decided from now on we will put this in this bed. We're going to go ahead and plant leeks and onions right along with the garlic, because by the time we start pulling up the garlic, it's almost going to be time to start pulling up the onion and the leeks. The leeks are kind of a little bit later, but we'll see how well we can manage this. So, as you can tell, this bed also badly needs to be weeded from the chickweed. And oh, by the way, I do want to point out, as you can see, the grass here, this is all due to the meat chickens that we're raising. We started with 25, we now have 22, so we had 3 die off. Our indoor brooding box situation is not exactly perfect. We're perfecting it right now. Remember, every year is a learning process. Every year we're learning a new skill. We're learning something new on how to improve our own self-sufficiency. So right now you can see the path going all the way back. We're slowly but surely trying to move the chickens backwards, back, further. They are getting big, but they're not there yet. We have some chickens that are maybe 2 pounds, and then we have some chickens that are almost 4 pounds. So they're not quite there yet, but they're getting really close, and we can't wait to get rid of them. We're like, just hurry up, grow, and get into our freezer, please. This is my herb bed, and this is my medicinal herb bed. These are all things that most of the time you're not going to use in culinary. There's a couple things you could, but typically you don't. I have everything from valerian, which has turned into an invasive herb in my garden. You can see it's everywhere. It's like all over the bed. It actually does not look like, almost looks like horehound, actually. No. Oh, that's anise. Or licorice. Anise, not anise hyssop. That's it. That's what that is. So obviously that one reseeded itself. It smells really good. It smells just like licorice. And St. John's wort. I have chamomile. Borage in my garden reseeds itself like crazy, so I don't have to buy borage anymore because it reseeds itself. Lemon balm. Melissa officinalis. That's really good for anxiety. If you make a cup of tea with it, it tastes just like lemon. And it kind of calms you down after a hard day. Let's see, I have bergamot, which is used to flavor Earl Grey. Let's see, what else do I have? I was trying to remember the name of it earlier, and I can't remember the name of this plant. It's not something that typically we would consume in a tea or anything, but it is useful. I can't remember the name of it right now. Later, if I remember it, I'll put it in the comments. I have yarrow. I have some poppy. It's very, very small. And a couple, oh, my spillanthus came up. Spillanthus is called the toothache plant because you can chew on it. I kid you not, this actually works. You can chew on it and it numbs your mouth. It's really cool. So if you got a toothache, you can chew on, even dried leaves work. You can chew on the dried leaves and it numbs up your mouth. It's really cool. It's like putting Ambisol on your mouth. So neat. This is my culinary herb bed, and I have typically all the ones that you normally find. Every year I try the same thing, and every year it does not work anymore. So guess what? After this year, it's not going to happen anymore. That right there is a basil plant. And every year that sorry, I'm looking at these. Oh, you can't probably see them. These 2 robins are arguing in this tree. I'm sorry, it was like a squirrel moment. I heard them like yelling at each other. And one of them maybe this one has a nest here. Obviously it didn't like the fact that the other robin was nearby. Okay, so anyways, squirrel. If you've ever seen the movie Up. Okay, so anyways, the basil, nope, from now on, basil is not going to go in this bed ever again. Every single time I put basil, regular basil, in this bed, it dies. Lemon basil, no problem. Thai basil or cinnamon basil, no problem. Pineapple sedge, no problem. Borage, you can tell, is doing just fine. Just stevia doesn't look so great. Oh, I do have sage. Regular sedge, no problem. Peppermint loves it. Dill loves it. Fennel loves it. Savory, thyme, they all love this bed except for basil. I don't know why just regular old basil won't work here. So that's not going to ever go in this bed ever again. I'll just keep it in a pot on the deck, and that's it. So that's my herb bed. Meanwhile, we've got zucchini squash. Remember, a big problem with any of our squashes is that, I'm sorry, I see something picking at a plant and I don't know what it is. Oh, it's a bird. Okay. Sorry, we do have voles, and I'm constantly watching the plants because I think that sometimes the voles are eating them. And now we've got a squirrel joining the mix. All right. Squirrel. Now, see, really, it is a squirrel moment. See? Haha. Squirrel. And he's going to come and visit us. Our cat loves these guys. So, anyways, sorry, so much wildlife that I get caught up and I watch their antics while I'm weeding, and it's enjoyable. Anyways, we have all different types of zucchini squash, yellow squash. This is a pumpkin. We're trying to train it to grow up. We've had so luck with this because sunlight, shade is the problem. So our plants are always a little shorter, smaller because of that. These are plants that we even bought at the greenhouse, and they are starting to produce, but they are still dismally small. And unfortunately, you can only produce so much fertilization, so much manure, so much all of that. But the problem is when you're constantly just have tons of shade, that's what you get. So we do get a lot of squash. We end up eating a lot of zucchini. By middle July, I'd be willing to bet that these are going to be much bigger. But for right now, they're still small and shrimpy. We do also have strawberries in here, but it's really hard to tell. I keep trying to bring more and more... Mosquitoes fly right into my face as soon as I bend down. I keep trying to bring more and more strawberries in here. As you can see, the chickweed is all over the place in here. It's a real challenge to try to weed in here while not getting a strawberry plant or the columbine. Yeah, these are columbine. So, yeah, we're constantly, it's a war. Every couple days we have to come back out and weed. And as you can tell lately, I've just been too busy, so I haven't had a chance to weed a whole lot. We have more zucchini. Yes, we love zucchini. I actually shred it a lot of times if I have too much of it. I shred it and then I put it in the freezer after draining it a little. Sorry, got caught up by the squirrel again. He's right next to me now. Yeah, we have tons of zucchini. I don't even know if this guy's ever going to produce anything. The problem is, again, too much shade. Even though we took down quite a few of the trees, we still have a lot of shade that we're working with. So, moving forward, we have all our different beds. We actually have labeled these as bed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, and then the herb beds. So that way we can differentiate, and when we're talking to each other about each bed, we know what bed we're talking about. So this one's bed 3, and it's technically always like our snow pea bed. Snow peas do really, really well here, but again, the problem is shade. Shade is constantly a problem. I planted direct sowed kale here, and the kale doesn't like it. I won't ever be doing kale in this bed. Kale on here is not doing too bad. The snow peas are doing okay. I'm hoping to see more. So a lot of this stuff, I'm hoping to see a lot more production out of here. I need to come through here actually and start training all of the snow peas to grow a little bit more up, because right now they're starting to try to fall into the kale and they'll kill the kale. We have a combination of different things in here. We have regular lettuce, yum yums. We have, let's see, what's that one? Whole combination of things. We have arugula, my favorite. We have dandelions. Yes, why would you grow dandelions, right? Yeah, well, we actually grow them because did you know that at Whole Foods you can buy a bunch of dandelions just like this guy and spend like $5 or $6 for that bunch of dandelions? Bitter greens are incredibly good for you. They are really, really good for you to eat. Yes, they're bitter, but it actually stimulates that digestive response. That's actually really, really healthy for us. So that's why we grow them. They're very healthy for you. So we have all sorts of things going on there. I'm not going to be able to go as much to the other side because we had to put up the greenhouse plastic yesterday because we were mowing the lawn. But as you can see, we have lettuces, all different types. I direct sowed a whole bunch of kale, and once again, it didn't come up. And they all seem to be from the same company, which makes me sad because I really love this company. It was Baker Creek, rareseeds.com. Typically, all their seeds come up no problem. This year, a lot of their seeds didn't come up. I don't know if it's because of the fact of just our garden or the seeds. So, in here, oh goodness, we have collard greens, mustard greens. Actually, some of them are going to seed already. That's a weed. Oh, I don't remember. Let's see. We have Chinese cabbage. We have, those kind of look like mustard greens too. We have broccoli rabe. They're looking kind of shrimpy, really. These guys are still not looking great. They're looking better than previous years, but it's still not looking great. Previously in this bed, we put kale. So, this year, it's not looking bad, but definitely the shade is still a problem. Bed one, we have kohlrabi. I don't know if this guy's going to produce anything or not. We do have broccoli, which is starting to produce baby heads. I definitely need to come back through here and weed. Our lilac tree is just at the very end of flowering. I'm going to be making jelly out of that here shortly, lilac jelly. I think I'm going to do a lemon lilac jelly, actually. We have celery, which is for the first time ever we've ever planted celery, and it's actually not doing too bad. These were seeds that we got from Baker Creek, and they seem like they're doing not bad at all. So I think we're going to have a lot of celery at the end of the season. So it's a good thing. It's good when you have little successes like that. It just keeps you going forward, right? Our compost bin, we actually remembered to start using it again. So recently we emptied bin number 2, into bin number 3. Bin number 1 is about to be moved over, but I told Edward what we need to do first is we need to set up the PVC pipes with holes in them into bed 2 so we can get more oxygen flowing through there. So therefore we'll get an aerobic reaction going on of breaking down everything. That is one of the big negatives here in Alaska, is that we have such a short season to do anything for summer months. So therefore you have to use whatever tools you possibly can to speed things up. If we put a PVC pipe in there that's big, wide, with holes in it, we'll get a little bit more air flow into it, which will speed up the breakdown of the plant material. That stuff turns into, this stuff right here is incredibly rich. It's so much richer than even our soil. So we are going to have to try to start using that more often. These tires, we just have tomato plants in them. It's an experiment. We're just trying to see if we can't do much. It's a very weak dye. I don't even think it's going to produce by the end of summer. This is where other potato plants are. And as you can tell, these guys are getting way more sunlight than back in the other area. This is because they get more of the afternoon sun. And I knew for a fact that they would love that. So yeah, they're looking really good, and I'm hoping we get tons of potatoes out of that. Go in the greenhouse really quick, show you what's going on here. So we got squash. Some of our melon type plants are doing okay, but not great. Again, the problem always is sunlight. This tomato plant has been producing massive amounts, but it did have a broken branch on it. So I need to cut that off before it hurts it more. And then we have peppers, more tomatoes, squash, more squash, more tomatoes. Some of these tomatoes aren't probably going to produce much. Cucumbers, we learned early on last year, always put the cucumbers up high. I'm not going to stay in here for very much longer because I'm getting eaten up in here. Always put the cucumbers up or melons up high, because otherwise, guess what? all of the mice or the rabbits come in here and they eat them all. So I'm not going to stay in here much longer, but it's doing okay. Not the best in the world. And I do see that this plant right here has got some fungus on it. So I'm going to be treating it for that. Because last year we also had this same fungus growing in here. And it devours some of the plants. So I got to get rid of that. Like I said earlier, we always have so much work to do. And only so many hours in the day. Our asparagus bed, we thought we had some successes coming up. And now we don't. Not a single one came up. I'm thinking it's because they did not get enough sunlight the previous year to store up sugar into their roots to last through the winter. It's possible that they're still lying dormant, but I don't know. Not a single one's come up. So we might be having to hold on the asparagus bed, cut down some of these trees in the forest over here, and see if we can't get more light into this area. So yeah, as you can see, lots of work. That is actually where we typically hold our chicken manure, rabbit manure. We don't mix the two of them together. One pile typically is rabbit, the other pile is usually chicken. Chicken manure has to be composted for about a year before you can use it. Rabbit manure you can use right away. I do need to go through the rabbit hutches and clean out a whole bunch of manure, which will just go in buckets, and then I'll put it in the garden. So it'll be a nice treat for the plants. And these are our ducks and turkey. Gus, hi guys. I have to admit that we're all going to be sad, kind of, when we have to say goodbye to these guys. They are for meat, and we did pick the wrong type of ducks, because these were the only ducks they actually had left at Alaska Feed. But what we technically wanted was, we wanted ducks that were for meat. Ducks that would grow to harvest weight very, very quickly. But I will say this, I can see why a lot of people like ducks, is they are very friendly and they have a lot of personality. We have one turkey left. He's still really tiny, but he is getting bigger. The other turkey that we bought, he died. Or she died, I don't know, we don't know the gender. But the ducks are super fun. They are very friendly. They constantly are doing their feathers, and yeah, they're so much fun. But yeah, so all of these guys, these are all meat. So even these guys, they're getting nice and fat. They're looking at me, they're thinking, I have treats. Because every single time I come back here, I either have food, water, or, well, chickweed, so food. So that's pretty much kind of the walkthrough of the garden. We have a lot of currants that are not doing too bad. I'm waiting to see, with us removing, we removed around 4 or 5 trees from this area. Blackhawk Works took down a couple of them, and then we took down a couple of them. And then, of course, Blackhawk Works took down a couple that were right in here. They were huge black spruce, I think it was, or white spruce. They took down a whole bunch of them. And so we're waiting to see if that helps some. I do think with the garlic, it has benefited them. The garlic is showing a lot more vigor this year than past years. It could be because it's been warmer. It's hard to say. I think time will tell for us. Edward and I were just recently talking, saying we do need to buy more garlic seed or more garlic. We typically go with Fillory Farms, I believe the name is. They are in Washington. I have been hearing rumors from California farmers that garlic, be prepared, garlic and onions are going to go in short supply coming up in the following years. So as such, we will be buying our seeds ahead of time. You know, what we need in order to get our garlic bed going next year. We'll be getting that order in quickly, so that way we can get ahead of the what's the saying? Ahead of the game, ahead of the whatever. So, anyways, yeah, our garlic's doing good. Our currants aren't doing too bad. High bush cranberries. We purchased some buckthorn berries. It's a type of tree. The berry itself is not exactly tasty, but they're really, really, really high in vitamin C. And we bought them from the Fairbanks Water Conservation. Some of them are showing, I'll show you. Some of them are showing signs of growth. Others are not. We're waiting to see what happens. Who knows? They might come back. By the way, that is a cherry tree. That's a plum tree. That's a cherry tree. These are sea buckthorn. Sea buckthorn. This one right here is a cherry Nanking. It might come back. Here's a sea buckthorn. That one is coming back. That's good news. Yeah, so we have some positives. We have some negatives. We're constantly working with the negatives to try to turn them our way. That's the grave of our poor little kitty cat, Horchata. We all come back here every so often and say hi to her. This one I don't see, sea buckthorn. I don't see any growth on it right now. Not to say it's, oh wait, no. There's some growth right in there. I see it. Aha! Yay! So we have another one that came back. It's good stuff. So that's kind of how we're doing. And if you've been following, this is the base to my son's blacksmithing shop. We had some friends come over and they helped us pour the last 2 segments. This last area right over there, that's the last area that needs to be filled in. We were 1 bag shy. So they're going to be doing that within probably this coming up week. And then we get to start building the structure. This is a 10 by 12 structure. It's going to be at its highest height, 12 feet tall. Lowest is, I think, 8 feet. The door, of course, is up front here. This will allow my son to lock up his materials and blacksmithing stuff. That way he can start working on his projects for blacksmithing. It's something he wants to get into. So, anyways, well, I hope you enjoyed that video. I know it was pretty long, 38 minutes. Well, longer than that probably, because with the first part of it. But I hope you enjoyed it. And let me know if you have questions. You know, here I am, Interior Alaska. Let me know if you have questions. I know what we do is kind of unusual, different, unique, whatever. A lot of people constantly say, oh, it's cold. As you can tell, no, it's not cold out. I do have a sweater on today because if I were to walk out here with short sleeves on, even though it's nice temperature, I think it's like almost 65 degrees, 70 degrees. So it's a nice temperature, but the problem is if I walked out here with short sleeves, I would be eaten up in an instant. So even when it's 75, 80 degrees, we still wear sweatshirts out here because the mosquitoes are really bad. So, but the temperatures are nice, as you can tell. Just a lot of work this time of year. We work really, really hard during the summertime. And by October, we breathe a huge sigh of relief because the rat race, like the huge race, not the rat race really, I wouldn't call this a rat race, but the huge race to get everything done is done. And we can take a breather. So we have many more projects that we're working on. So like I said, if you have any questions, email me or comment on the video and let me know what you think. So, all right, I'm out.